Hello, I'm Bert Lancaster. I'm standing in the fields at Kursk. The largest armored battle in history took place here in July of 1943. Hitler planned to annihilate the Soviet army at Kursk and make one final effort to win the war in the east. Here, thousands of tanks, both Soviet and German, clashed in a battle of monumental size. Kursk was one of the most significant single engagements of the 20th century. After the Nazis' defeat in this battle, Hitler's tanks, the pride of his army, would never again regain the strength which had carried them from the English Channel to the Volga. And never again would the Germans meet the Russians on even terms. After Kursk, Hitler's ability to launch a major offensive was severely curtailed. Our story, the world's greatest tank battle.
In the spring of 1943, the Red Army readied itself for its summer campaign. In particular, it prepared for an offensive from its salient at Kursk. The winter had ended with a great Soviet victory, the capture of an entire German army at Stalingrad. After Stalingrad, the initiative lay with the Red Army. Humiliated by his defeat, Hitler hungered for revenge. He would bite off the Kursk salient at its base and annihilate the Russian armies within it. He called it Operation Citadel. On April 15th, 1943, Hitler called for a victory that would shine out like a signal beacon to the world. And Nazi Germany responded with solemn vows. Reinforcements poured toward the east as if from an inexhaustible well, train after train. Rich with slave labor from all over conquered Europe, German arms production had increased. In 1943, aircraft production was 1.5 times what it had been the year before. Double the number of tanks came off the assembly lines. There were new models, high-powered, heavier gunned, more thickly armored. Panther Mark V's and Tiger Mark IVs, the best that Germany could produce. training grounds, they seemed invincible. Nothing, it seemed, could withstand their advance. The Wehrmacht began to mass. Hitler's Operation Citadel called for 20 divisions to the north of the salient, 28 to the south, and 7 at the salient's tip. 16 of them were armored divisions. The Russians watched the Nazis concentrate, counting. 900,000 men, 2,700 tanks, 10,000 guns, 2,000 planes. In the Kremlin, the Soviet High Command considered the options. The choice was between striking first or letting the Nazis attack and then reply. Stalin decided to let the Germans throw themselves on the Russian guns. The Soviet divisions in the salient were to set up box defenses with as many as 7 or 8 defense lines, echeloned 100 miles deep. When the Nazis had exhausted themselves, the Red Army would attack. Stalin appointed Marshals Zhukov and Vasilevsky to oversee the operation. By 1943, Soviet industry had more than overcome the setbacks of the early part of the war. Though half its capacity had been lost at the outset, it was now outproducing Hitler's Reich. Deep behind the Urals, the mills operated day and night, forging steel for the Red Army's tanks and shells. Aircraft production and tank production became a torrent. These were no longer weapons for the defensive. They were the means of carrying the war into Germany. They gave the Red Army preponderance in what was to become the greatest armored conflict in the entire history of warfare. The numbers were ominous. In 3 months, 500,000 freight cars rolled into Kursk. The Soviets crammed 10 field armies into the salient, plus 2 tank armies and 2 air fleets. 1,300,000 men, nearly 20,000 guns and mortars, over 3,600 tanks.